The first time I felt hope again, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a lightning bolt or an overwhelming surge of emotion. It was small. A subtle shift in Mark's gaze when he looked at me over breakfast. A gentle hand on my shoulder when I walked past. A quiet acknowledgement that we were no longer enemies, no longer strangers, but two people cautiously choosing to be present for each other. Rebuilding trust after betrayal is not linear. There were days I wanted to retreat into silence. Days when my chest tightened at a simple phone notification. Days when the past seemed like it would consume me. And yet each day he continued to show up. He continued to choose honesty over convenience. He continued to demonstrate, through action, that restoration was not only possible but unfolding. We began attending therapy together consistently. Not the forced sessions where one partner is dragged in. These were voluntary, intentional, and deep. We uncovered patterns we had ignored for years: avoidance, poor communication, unspoken resentment. Therapy didn't magically fix us, but it taught us tools: how to express anger without destruction, how to listen without judgment, and how to be vulnerable without fear. I learned to communicate my pain without weaponizing it. He learned to hear my words without defensiveness. At home, the small gestures became monumental. Breakfast prepared without being asked. Notes left in lunchboxes for the kids. A cup of tea brought to me on a hectic morning. These acts of care weren't dramatic. They weren't heroic. But they were consistent. They were proof that he was choosing me daily, not out of fear of loss, but out of intentional love. The children began to sense it too. Their laughter, once hesitant, returned naturally. Our son asked if we could play soccer in the yard again. Our daughter asked for bedtime stories from both of us, insisting that we write together. Moments like these reminded me that restoration is not just about two adults. It's about the environment we create for those who depend on us. Even with progress, I had moments of doubt. Old habits die hard. I found myself checking his messages, a reflex I loathed but could not immediately overcome. He noticed but did not react with anger. Instead, he allowed transparency. He shared details willingly, allowed me access without complaint, and demonstrated patience with my insecurities. That level of accountability became the foundation of trust that was slowly being rebuilt. One rainy afternoon, Mark suggested we take a short weekend trip. It wasn't extravagant, just a cabin near the lake, a place to escape from the routines that had grown heavy over the years. I hesitated, memories of the affair clawing at the edges of my mind. But I agreed. That weekend became a turning point. We cooked together, walked the trails, laughed over small mishaps, and talked late into the night. For the first time in months, I felt the warmth of partnership instead of the weight of betrayal. By the time the leaves changed color, marking 6 months since the separation began, a quiet acknowledgement passed between us. Restoration was not a single moment. It was not a magic sentence that erased the pain. It was the accumulation of honesty, accountability, effort, and small acts of love. We had survived the storm. We had rebuilt, not perfectly, but authentically. I realized that betrayal had been a brutal teacher. It stripped away the illusions we had built, forced introspection, and demanded change. I had rediscovered self-worth, agency, and strength. Mark had confronted his flaws and chosen intentional action over avoidance. Together, we had created a new foundation for our marriage, one built on transparency, humility, and commitment. There were moments of fear, moments when I doubted whether he would stay consistent, whether the wounds had truly healed. But each time I faltered, his actions spoke louder than words. Each time I questioned, he reinforced our commitment with patience and intentional care. The restoration wasn't instantaneous, but it was undeniable. We began celebrating milestones in new ways. Not just anniversaries, but weekly small victories. A week without arguments. A date night that felt spontaneous. Laughter shared without tension. We documented moments of joy intentionally, reminding ourselves that the life we were rebuilding was worth cherishing. One evening, sitting on the balcony as the sun set in a blaze of oranges and pinks, Mark turned to me and said, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness yet, but I will spend every day earning it." I felt tears rise, but this time, they weren't of despair. They were tears of relief, gratitude, and cautious optimism. Restoration is a journey, not a destination. It requires more than words. It requires action. It demands humility, empathy, and vulnerability. It necessitates confronting the deepest pains of the past while actively choosing a better future. Our marriage had been broken, but the pieces had been put back together intentionally. Each day became an exercise in choosing love, not convenience. Choosing trust, not suspicion. Choosing connection, not avoidance. Over time, the house felt alive again. The children's laughter echoed naturally, unprompted. We shared meals without tension, spoke without hesitation, and slept beside each other with peace instead of fear. We weren't naive. We weren't perfect. But we were intentional. And that intention became the strongest testament to restoration. Looking back, I realized the affair, the betrayal, and the months of distance had not destroyed us. They had challenged us. They had forced introspection, confrontation, and growth. And the restoration that emerged was not fragile or temporary. It was resilient because it was built on conscious choices and authentic transformation. I learned that love after betrayal is possible. That trust, once fractured, can be rebuilt. That two people, committed to accountability and emotional labor, can survive even the deepest wounds. And perhaps most importantly, I learned that restoration does not erase the past, it transforms it, weaving lessons and growth into a renewed foundation for a future full of hope and love. By the time the year ended, we had emerged stronger. Not only had we survived the pain, but we had grown closer in ways we hadn't anticipated. Conversations became deeper, empathy became richer, and gratitude became more pronounced. Our marriage was not the same as before the affair, but it was something far more intentional and enduring. Restoration is possible. Healing is possible. Love, when chosen deliberately, can return, even after betrayal, even after heartbreak. And while our journey was uniquely ours, the lessons we learned are universal. Accountability, honesty, patience, and the willingness to choose each other every single day can rebuild what was once broken.